to this week's Pilates class, which is all about our walking. We're going to cover 5 things for walking: eyeline, chest lifted, driving forwards from the hips, articulating through the feet and ankles and knees and hips with good alignment, and swinging the arms naturally. So let's start by just having a little walk around maybe in your space and look down. Just look down at the floor. So number 1, our eyeline. When we're looking down and walking around, we tend to allow, obviously we've got the forward head carriage, but we also tend to allow the shoulders to round forwards, which is everything that we don't want when we're walking. So if you are walking around, when you start to think about this, maybe when you do this class again and you go out and you're walking around, think about lifting the eyeline. If you do need to look down, just be aware of what's on the floor. Sort of look down your nose a little bit, but try and keep that eyeline lifted. So let's take our usual, bring our feet together, close together, so hip width apart, hands interlace at the back of the head, at the bulky part of the skull, and bringing the elbows forwards. My shoulders feels a little bit caught up today. So bring the elbows forwards and push the head into the hands. So thinking about a few things here. The main one we're going to start to think about is where our eyeline is when we're standing in good tall posture. And it's sort of level, maybe just underneath your elbow, with those elbows forwards. But I'm going to go sideways as well. So thinking of pushing the top back corner of the head into the hands, eyeline straight out ahead, sending the tailbone down, lifting the head up and off of the shoulders almost by slightly cupping the hands at the back of the head, applying a little bit of pressure there, drawing the shoulder blades down in your back, connecting the rib cage to the hips at the front, sending the tailbone down. I think I've already done that one once. Giving yourself a little bit of an armpit hug, just being aware of around those armpits. And then gently rock forwards and backwards, taking the weight onto the balls of the feet, onto the heels a little bit. Find that middle ground and just continue to lengthen the spine, switching all of those things or heightening all of your awareness of all those areas that I've just mentioned. Keep them all engaged. So try not to, when you start thinking about one thing, move, forget about the first one. Sort of thing. So we're lifting the head up, we're sending the tailbone down, we're lengthening the spine, pushing the head into the back of the hands. Just noticing where the eyeline is. So what are you looking at? Where is that? Where is your eyeline level with when you're standing in really good tall posture? And then let's take the hands away, take the arms away, span the fingers and the thumbs broad, really nice and wide, so it's as if you're playing your piano scales, and place them on your torso. And then with the feet in the same position, the spine is still lengthened, we're still bracing, we're switching on all those muscles. We're just going to send our bottom back, taking a mini hip hinge. So nothing is changing in the spine. But the main thing I want you to think about is that eyeline. So as I pitch forwards, the back of my neck stays in exactly the same shape. My eyeline lowers to the same amount that my upper body lowers. So just do a couple more of those, sending that bottom back, noticing that the weight is in the heels. When you're in the right place, you should be able to lift the front of both feet up quite comfortably without any change either side, and then when you come up. So what quite often happens with this, that I see quite a lot, is when we're thinking about the whole spine and everything else that's going on there, we tend to leave quite often the eyeline in the same place. And so that means the chin's poking forwards, it means I've crunched at the back of my neck. So if I don't adjust as I come up, effectively you've done that. So we want to keep that nape of the neck long. So that was all about our eyeliner there. Brilliant. Okay, we are just mobilising. So let's get the hands on the shoulders. Take the feet a little bit wider now. Nice and parallel with the insteps. Circling elbows round as much as you can, changing direction. So although I'm thinking about the biggest circle I can draw with my elbows, I'm also allowing my rib cage to shift forwards and backwards a little bit. And then let's take the arms out to the side, parallel to the floor. Bring the backs of the hands towards each other in front of you. Little fingers on top. You can even cross over a little bit if you like. And then turn the palms up and open up the chest and maybe look up a little bit and tilt the thumbs back so the thumbs lead. So I'm turning the arms first, reaching forwards, and then turning the palms up and going back. I'm just noticing in the monitor how wonky my arms are. It's because it's not an exact mirror image. It's yeah. So the other thing I'm after here is, as you bring your arms forwards, to push the rib cage back. As you take your arms out and back, shift that rib cage forwards. Really over exaggerate that arched back. That's one of our postural resets. The other thing that's going on here is at this shoulder joint. So when you're bringing the backs of the hands forwards, little finger is on top, almost palm is up the other way actually. It really rounds the shoulder forwards, and then when you turn the palm up the other way, you're opening up that shoulder joint. That's what we're after as well. So getting lots of mobilization so that we can swing the arms naturally without any inhibition, but also we're wanting this chest to be lifted. Number 2 of our 5 things to help us with our walking better. Brilliant. We are from there going to just take the arms into some snow angels. So facing the other way, I'm going to bring the backs of my hands into the small of my back. I'm going to lower the hands down. Same sort of principle with the shoulder here. I'm turning the palms up as I'm reaching up, and then I'm bringing my fingertips to the backs of my ears and trying to take my elbows out to the side. Reaching up, lengthening down, turning the hands and the arms around. So I'm lifting the backs of the hands into the small of the back. Again, it's the shoulder joint that we're thinking about here. So we're taking the shoulder on an internal and an external rotation. So lengthening the arms down to the floor, palms are up, fully rotated all the way around. See if you can get little fingers together at the top. It's quite, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. And then opening out, fingertips touching the backs of the ears, reaching up, reaching down, lengthening down and lifting up. One more of those. Just being quite fluid with it. Hopefully it doesn't hurt your shoulders. If it does, then maybe don't do it. Do another just mobilising exercise that's a little bit more comfortable. Can be quite tough, especially if you've got a dodgy shoulder. We're going to try and repeat that movement on the floor. We're not going to try and repeat it. We're going to repeat that when we're lying on the floor towards the end. Wonderful. Let's take our hip circles, big hula hoop hip circles. Just about 4 or 5 in each direction, keeping the upper body, keeping the rib cage fairly still, circling around. Wonderful. And then bring the feet and the knees together, bending the knees, fingertips on your knees, so that essentially you keep the knees at the same height. You're sticking your bottom out a little bit. That spine is in its natural curves. Think about the eyeline. It's gone down to the floor. I'm sort of looking at where the floor and the wall meet. And then we're circling the knees. So the reason we keep the fingertips on the knees is to keep the knees at the same height as we take our circles. Sticking the bottom out a little bit, keeping that back nice and in its good natural curves. And then I've turned to face forwards because I want you to also think about and look down at your own feet. Check out what's going on in those feet. Hopefully you've got your feet and your knees together, and we're rolling to the outside edge of one foot, inside edge of the other foot, back onto the heels, swapping over, inside, outside edge. Then coming onto the balls of the feet, changing direction. So get this movement going at your knees and also your ankles as much as possible. Great. And then standing on one leg. So in order to be able to walk well, walk efficiently, we need good balance. one of the 10 things to do every day as well. So let's stand on one leg, stand on your weaker leg if you can, and we're just going to twiddle the other foot at the ankle and both hands at the wrists. Trying to keep the body, the torso nice and square. Standing leg is straight. That ankle might be moving around a little bit, oscillating a little bit, absolutely fine. Circling as much as you can, change directions, maybe 4 times. My foot's clicking away like a gun. Brilliant. And notice where you're feeling it in the standing leg. Ideally, we're building the endurance, building the stamina in the hip, buttocks area on that standing leg. That's your stabilising leg. That's what's going to help you drive the hips forwards to help you to walk more efficiently. Brilliant. Change over legs. So if you're a bit worried about your balance here, tap the toe on the floor before you do each circle. That's absolutely fine. And this time, let's keep the foot circling at the ankle, but let's do some what I call sea anemones. I don't know why, but I always want to lift my arms up when I show you this. Sort of it's that animal instinct. But lengthen the arms down, so we don't want the arms bent because we're using too many extra muscles to do that. But do make big twirling, twiddling, sea anemone, giant spider type movements with your hands, your fingers if you can, and all the while circling, until that standing leg starts to feel roughly the same amount of stress as you felt in the other side, hopefully. Great, so I feel that we've mobilised everything, we've got everything going a little bit more than we were before we started class, and hopefully just stretch to the edges a bit as we did that as well. Let's have the feet slightly wider than hip width apart, and we're going to take a knee bend and lift the arms up. I've done this fairly recently. When you lift the arms up to shoulder height, I want both hands to face the same wall, and then you're bending the knees and lifting both hands facing the same wall. The other way to look at this or think about this is thumbs are up. Thumbs are up. And you can only achieve this by opening up this back shoulder. When you're bending your knees, ideally the knees are over the toes. If I face forwards, I hide the back arm behind my body because that's how much I've opened up. If your back arm is going out to the side, you might still have that, you maybe have that thumb down. And that shoulder position that we looked at earlier, where you are rolling the shoulder forwards and backwards, this is when you take that arm back, this is part of that external rotation in the shoulder. If you leave it internally rotated, it feels awkward and it just doesn't go anywhere. And then we're continuing with that forward motion of the shoulder, which we don't want. So you probably know what's coming up. If you've been doing class recently and if you've done this movement before, we're going to take 3 of these. I've got my right arm in front, then my left arm in front, then my right arm in front. I'm going to continue to move the arms and lift them up, both up to the ceiling, squaring the shoulders up. I'm pulling the right arm back and finishing with one more knee bend, and I finish with the right arm forwards. That was the arm I started with. Let's do it leading with the left arm. So left arm and right arm as in front. Left arm is in front. Both arms go up. You square your shoulders up, then you pull the left arm back, you bend your knees, you finish with the left arm forwards. Let's go again. And right arm, left arm, right arm. Continue taking the arms up. Just continue that movement around and through. She says just, I know it's quite difficult. Left arm and right arm. This is the last one. Left arm, continue moving all the way up to the top. Pull the left shoulder back, swing through. Last one, finishing with that left arm forward, hopefully. Good, so we've got a little bit of rotation going on in the back there. Brilliant. We are looking at our feet articulation. So feet hip width apart, Bending the knees again, so this is feet, knees, ankles, and also it will affect the hips ultimately. If you're out of alignment, it's all going to come it's all going to come up from the floor basically, and then affect your spine as well, and everything else. So your gait sort of starts at your feet really. I just rocked back a little bit there. So feet are hip width apart, your hip bones. We're going to bend the knees as much as possible. So remembering my bend isn't great, but I've gone as much as I can. My heels are just starting to peel off the floor, but my spine is really upright. Then I'm going to roll through onto the balls of the feet. Then I'm straightening both legs and lowering the heels with control. Bending the knees, peeling the heels off, straightening the legs, lowering with control, trying not to grip on my toes, roll through. When you're at this point, when the heels are off, and also when you've got the heels, when you've got your legs straight, think about the position between your big toe and your second toe, where you wear your flip-flops, as being the strongest point of contact through the floor. So basically what that's doing is it's going to stop you from rolling out towards your little toes. So stop those ankles collapsing. I think this is the fourth one. Now I'm going to reverse it for 4. So up to the top, a little bit harder to change that weight there. Bend the knees, keeping the heels up. Push the heels down, mine is slightly hovering, and then straighten the legs. I'm going to do a couple more of these facing sideways. So up to the top, beautiful straight line. Bend the knees, no change other than the knees bending. Pushing the heels down, I'm allowing my heels to hover slightly, still getting that nice stretch in the calf, and then straightening the legs. So you can have your hand on the back of a chair, on the kitchen worktop, on the wall like I'm doing, just to give you a bit of support, but don't let it distract from what you're doing with those legs. So we're looking for that perfect alignment, that perfect symmetry as we walk through our feet and roll through the feet and the ankles. Brilliant. What is next? Broken down rises and plies. Okay, we have got some running man. So coming back to the focusing on strengthening the hips. We're going to bend the arms into this sort of, I call this like a Joe 90 position. And we're going to swing, alternate arms forwards and backwards. And what I want you to think about is the movement is that the arm is swinging from the shoulder joint. In fact, if I just do this front one, swinging from the shoulder joint, and that's the only bit that's moving. The shape of my arm isn't changing. So I'm not straightening the arm as I go forwards. I'm also not bending the arm more, so it brings that fist closer. And I'm definitely not straightening it as I go back. So what I'm thinking about, the area that I'm thinking about, so I'm thinking about my triceps at the backs of the arms and the elbow. I'm thinking about the elbow pinning back, and then it will swing naturally forwards. We don't really need to think about the front bit. Then we're going to come into our deep, a fairly deep if you can, but narrow squat. So feet and knees are together. So coming down lower than we were before when we were doing the knee circles, as low as you possibly can. Trying to keep those knees above, if not slightly behind the ankles, but definitely not here, not over the toes, especially if you've got long Achilles. I have to sort of send my hips back because my Achilles are so rubbish, but I'm hinging at the hips. My spine is in its natural curve, so we practiced this at the very beginning. We were there with the mini hip hinge. Everything's linking in together. So we're down. You're going to stay on one leg. Start on your weaker leg if you can. Arms are in this bent position. I'm going to take my moving leg back. I'm going to bring the same arm forwards. It's going to stay in this shape. I'm going to tap the feet together. The arms swap over. Tap the foot out behind. Tapping and tapping and tapping. And we're off. The idea here is that you keep your body and that one leg absolutely still, in the same shape. Your head, neck, eyeline, all in the same place. The arms are swinging from the shoulder. The leg is moving, one leg is moving backwards and forwards hip and knees and everything is moving, but just that one leg is moving, nothing else is moving. I'm starting to get a little bit tired, starting to wobble a little bit more now. And this should be hard work on that standing leg, ideally in the buttock, but maybe you're going to be feeling it somewhere else. Do what you can from the front. Really be, oops, hit the wall. Really be aware of the alignment of this knee, as we just worked on. The ankle, the knees, the knee is over the ankle, it's over the toes, and then everything is nice and square. Good. If you can, keep going if you can. It's killing me as well. Add a little bit more on if you want to, by keeping that foot flexed and in the air all the time. It's really significantly quite a bit harder. Harder on the balance as well, as you can see. Whoo, yeah, and that's enough. Can I give that a little bit of a shake? So for me, that really gives my buttocks a bit of a workout. It might not be in that same place for you, it might be somewhere else on that leg, but you should be feeling it on the standing leg. Just going to turn my heater off to celebrate the fact that I've got nice and warm. Okay, I'm going to go on to the other side. Feet and knees together, send the bottom back, fix your position. Try and be in a perfect position to start before you even move that leg. Pin the elbows back a little bit. Watch your eye line. Make sure the back of the neck is nice and long. Take the moving leg back, bring the same arm forwards, then you're good to go. So we should always have the opposite arm forwards to the opposite arm to the forwards leg. And then we're swapping each time. So no change in my weight either. Notice that it's staying in the same place. There's no shifting back and forwards. Pin the elbows back. Shoulders and hips nice and square. If you've got your yoga mat and you're facing the short end of your yoga mat, it's quite helpful to have that reference. Tapping and tapping, tapping and tapping. Woo. Quite hard work. Okay, I'm not going to face the front because that broke my pattern earlier. I'm going to lift that leg off. Keeping the foot flexed, it just helps me to keep the leg a little bit stronger. I'm struggling, that knee is buckling in a little bit now because my legs are tired, buttocks are tired, they're not able to support me, they're not able to be as stable. Ooh, first rhyme of class. As they were when they were fresh. And yep, that's enough of that. Okay, fantastic. So this is working towards number 3, driving the hips forwards as you walk. So let's add on a little bit to this by taking some walking backwards and forwards on your yoga mat if you've got one, or that equivalent amount of space. We're going to start with popping the hands on the hips. We're walking forwards with the same leg. We're doing 2 walks or 2 steps and then 1 tap with the same leg. Then we're doing 2 steps backwards and 1 tap. Again, it's all the same leg. So I'm going to start with my left leg, just gets closer to the camera. So we've got step, step, tap, step back, tap back. So the first 2 walk forwards and then you tap in front. The second 2 walk backwards and you tap behind. So walking, walking, tap, walking, walking, tap. And hopefully balance is okay. You're nice and upright, eyeline is lifted, chest is lifted, the hips are driving through and forwards. You should be nice and aware of those hips as we're going. You're rolling through your feet, you're keeping your balance, rolling through the middle of the feet. Everything is in its good alignment as we go. So the last thing that we haven't done yet is the arms swinging naturally. So let's just pause a moment before we go on to the right leg. We're just going to do the arms on the right leg. So swinging the arms equally, forwards and backwards, which is something that we don't do. We don't generally do that. We generally, if we're thinking about swinging the arms, we quite happily lift the front arm really quite high. So this is lifting it maybe to 90 degrees in relationship to my body. The lower arm doesn't really do much. And this, again, everything that we do generally is in front of the body. So we ignore the back line of the body. So what I want you to do here, imagine this lovely white stripe down the side of my leggings continues up, and it's representing the middle of my body, as if it's going to be cut in half. I want the front arm and the back arm to go equally forwards and backwards. So I can almost forget about the front arm. And if I think about this too much, the front arm will quite happily go too high anyway. So keep the front arm really low. Think about using the triceps on the back of that arm as it goes back. Think about squeezing a little bit, working around the shoulder blades. All the same sort of stuff as we normally do. There's a very slight rotation in the shoulders, but hips are square. Good, so let's do our walk, walk, tap, leading with the right leg this time and with the opposite arm. So we've got right leg leads for the steps, left arm leads, and the right arm is back, making that equal distance. So we've got tap, step, step, tap, same thing, the arms are changing each time. The arms change as you go back, step, step, tap. And again, because you're changing the legs each time, you have to change the arms. So walk, walk, tap, walk, walk, tap. I realised I was just starting to end up a little bit low there. So I'm now lifting my chest, I'm lifting my eye line, walking confidently, forwards and backwards. I'm going to have a little sneaky look sideways. Yeah. So I can see myself in the monitor. My front arm is still wanting to come up way too high. Back arm, back arm, back arm, back arm, back arm, back arm. One more set. Ba, 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 ba. Now, if you're not convinced, the way to test whether this feels right to you or not is to do same arm as legs. Let's go back to the left leg. So the leading side. So what I mean by same arm as leg is the same arm comes forwards as the forwards leg when you're walking. So you've got walk, walk, tap, and the same arm goes back as the leg steps back, back, tap. So not only should that feel really ungainly, uncoordinated, you lose your balance, it's basically just hard work for your body. It's in an inefficient way of moving. So that's why we try as much as possible. And we walk like that. We just don't exaggerate it as much in everyday life. But that's what we're trying to do here. So feet are really nice and wide. Insteps parallel. My regulars may notice my new boy Dexter is just having a bit of a scratch, but he's asleep. He was asleep. Hopefully he won't start bothering me, but it's really nice to have a sleeping dog back in the room. Okay, so feet nice and wide, legs are straight. We're going to hinge forwards from the hips, finding that biting point. Again, let's think about the eye line. So let's think about the eye line when you're upright. See what you can see when your eye line is level, and then take the head and the neck down all in the same shape. If you find yourself, so you might not be able to go fully as low as me where I'm parallel to the floor. It depends on your length of your hamstrings and the amount of stretch in your lower back. But if you find yourself, your eye line, if you find yourself looking through your legs to the floor, behind your legs, then you've definitely let your upper back collapse. So ideally you should just be looking straight down at the floor. You might be, if you're a little bit higher, might be looking a little bit further away, but keep that eye line in place. Let's do a couple more of those. So finding your biting point, finding the stretch in the hamstrings, coming up out of it, noticing how does it feel today. Might feel good, it might feel a little bit tight, and then I'm going to hold this position, take my arms out to the side and just circle fingertips fingertips a golf ball size circle at your fingertips, moving the whole arm from the shoulder, about 10 in each direction. Keeping those arms nice and straight and then changing direction. Wonderful. So this, I like this because it's stretching the hamstrings, but it's keeping the collarbone and everything beautifully parallel to the floor. You're working all the smaller muscles around the shoulder blades. You're building the stamina in the back of the neck. Wonderful. When you've done that, let's bend the knees and straighten the legs. Bend the knees and straighten the legs. And maybe I'll just turn sideways. Ideally, what we're looking for is for your torso and your arms to lift and lower like a platform. So what I mean by that is you're not tilting, you're staying as parallel, you're staying in the position that you were in, bending the knees. It's quite strong on the hips. The front of the hips are getting quite compressed. Stay with it if you can. Let's do one more. Bend the knees, take the hands down to the floor this time. And now walk the feet out a little, well, quite a lot more actually. I'm almost as wide as my yoga mat. And we're going to transfer the weight from side to side. So stretching specifically inside thighs and groin. Just do what you can, keeping the weight on the hands. Hands are underneath the shoulders. If you are comfortable with this today, turning all the way round. We're going to take some lizards. So that is the opposite hand to the front foot is on the floor. The same hand, the same arm, and the back leg nice and straight if you can. If you need to drop the back knee down, but try and keep that leg off if you can. So the same arm as the front foot, stretching forwards, reaching up, follow it with your eye line. Keep it straight until your arm touches your hips, then tuck your elbow, tuck your hand in, tuck your elbow in and twist slightly so that your shoulder makes contact with the inside of that knee before you go forwards. So tuck and I go forwards a little bit over my toes and then I push back a little bit. And also what we're thinking about here, there's loads of things going on here, it's a really great stretch actually. Lots of this rotation in the thoracic spine. I'm going this way as I tuck that shoulder in, and then when I'm opening up, I'm going the other way. Forwards and backwards, one more for luck. Feet are already in the perfect position, hopefully. Let's turn around to the other side. Just moving from side to side is good. Nice wide position, making sure as always that knee is above the ankle. Opposite hand is down. Same arm as that front foot reaches forwards and up. Drill the hand in, the elbow goes past the knee, the shoulder tucks in. It's like you're giving it a bit of a shoulder bump. And then we're up and back. Back leg nice and straight if you can. Breathing, moving all the way through. Try not to get stuck in any part of this. That back knee can be down. That's absolutely fine. Do what you can. Ideally with the back leg nice and straight, we're looking to stretch the front of the hip, but even with the back knee down, we're still looking to stretch the front of the hip. And when you've had enough of that one, let's have a little relax. Brilliant. So let's come on to a seated position and take some nice footwork. So this is our Garuda footwork, all designed to just keep your feet nice and strong and supple. So we're sitting as upright as possible. Again, thinking about that, lifting the chest position that we want when we're walking. Hands are behind us, fingertips facing away, or fingers facing away, thumbs facing towards your body, and be up on your hands, a bit like a tripod. So basically you're not collapsing back here. You're arching the back a little bit, lifting the chest, lifting the eye line, pinning those shoulders back. So we're working hard in the upper body. Feet and knees hip width apart, flex the feet, And all we're going to do initially is curl the toes over, scrunch the toes over and then release them. Scrunch them over and then release them. Scrunch and release. So we're making what we call a foot fist. Think of your torso as the figurehead of a boat. So keep that chest lifted, working quite hard actually on that upper body at the same time. It's all going on. Then we're going to scrunch the toes over. We're going to extend the ankle, which means your legs will straighten a little bit, but don't worry about that. Keep the heels pretty much where they are. Then then pull the toes up again and then flex the feet. Scrunch, ankles, toes, ankles. Scrunch, well it's toes, ankles, I guess. Toes, ankles, toes, ankles, toes, ankles. Great, let's go the other way. Extend your ankle but leave your toes sticking up. Then scrunch the toes and then pull back. It's called cherry picking, it's quite strong. And then release the toes. Ankles, toes, scrunch, pull back and release. So it's like you're sort of grabbing, picking the cherry. Quite strong on the feet and the ankles. But really good to keep all these muscles working, keep them nice and strong. Brilliant. Okay, I'm finishing off. I'm going to allow you to have a little slump back, but don't collapse in that upper body. Just put your hands nice and flat. Maybe open up the feet and the knees a little bit wider. Let's just circle the legs round symmetrically. So I'm moving, I'm bending the knees, flexing the feet, opening the legs out, straightening, rolling the feet in at the ankles and then changing direction. Just a bit more mobilization for the hips, knees, ankles, keeping everything as supple as possible. Wonderful. We are going to lie down on our backs. Let me put my notes over here. I'm going to stay nice and sideways on actually. So hands underneath the backs of the knees, rolling all the way down if you can. Come down and into your base position. So base position, we're thinking about the shape of the spine. Have your feet quite close to your butt. And think about the weight through the feet. Nice and even. Shuffle down a little bit. So you've got the natural curves in your spine. Let's have the hands down on the floor, arms are in a low V, backs of the hands on the floor, which opens up the collarbone a little bit, which should feel quite nice. And have an awareness of the backs of the arms here. Maybe push the backs of the arms and the backs of the shoulder into the floor a little bit, but watch so it doesn't make you flare your ribs. So ribs are connected. So as we did when we were standing, when we first started class, we had the hands at the back of the head, we had the elbows forwards. Slide the shoulder blades down in your back, connect your rib cage to your hips. Keep lengthening the head along the floor. Give yourself a little bit of an armpit hug. So I want you to set your torso, set yourself in the centre, and then we're going to push down through the feet, switch the buttocks on and lift the hips up as high as you can. Just coming up into a really good straight bridge. When you're up there, check that those ribs are connected. Check that your knees aren't flaring out. Mine want to go out a little bit. Try and keep them parallel. Push down through those heels. Can you switch on at the gluteal fold a little bit more? Try and open up at the front of the hips a tiny bit more. Now stay switched on as you lower. Don't relax, and we're not articulating the spine today. We're just taking a big, strong, straight bridge all the way up. We're trying to strengthen the back line of the body, upper arms, upper chest, as well as the backs of the legs, by driving those hips up off the floor, keeping the torso nice and fixed. All the way up, all the way down. Good. From from here, let's stay up at the top. If you can, and this is a slightly lower level to the one we're going to do in a moment, but if you can, roll through the feet, lift one heel, and then lift that leg up into a knee fold, place it back down through the toes, and then put the heel down. Swap sides. Roll through, lift up into your knee fold, rolling down through the foot. If that's too much for you, it's very strong on the leg that stays on the floor, you could just do a heel lift and lower, and a heel lift and lower. If you can, lift the heel, lift the whole leg. Notice how much work goes on in that leg that stays on the floor, on that side on the buttock. That's doing all the stabilising. Try and be nice and accurate with the leg that lifts in the air. So the knee is above the hip, the shin is parallel to the floor, no rocking and rolling from side to side with the pelvis. When you've done an equal amount both sides, let's take those arms up and over to the floor behind you. And let's just articulate down through the spine, just because it feels so lovely. And then maybe hug those knees in, have a little roll around. Okay. So we're going to go into a marching bridge from here. Feet are flat, without actually doing the hardest part of this. Although this is not difficult, what we're about to do, but I want you to be really accurate. We're going to lift one leg into a knee fold and lift the opposite arm up. And I'm looking for a beautiful 90 degree, I have to lower my foot a little bit, I can see in the monitor. So beautiful 90 degree here with this thigh and here with this arm, and then the shin perpendicular, because remember it changes the shape of your lower back. If you bring it in too far, that knee in too far, and also if you let it go away too far, it changes the musculature. This is our neutral position. And then we're lowering at the same time, and then swapping. Again, we're looking at that opposition, opposite arm to the leg that is in front, as opposed to lifting the same side, arm and leg. Always trying to work this opposition. Okay, we're going to add on to that, if you can. You're going to add a bridge each time. So as you're lifting the hips up, you're lifting the leg up, you're lifting the opposite arm up. Perfect position. And then lower down, swapping sides each time. So it's a marching bridge. Take your time. Keep the pelvis level, shoulders level. Keep the rib cage drawn down. Try and coordinate your timing. So everything gets to the top in the perfect position at the same time. Everything lowers at the same time. You swap sides. If you wanted to add a set breathing pattern, I would suggest breathing out as you come up, breathing in as you lower. One more each side. Wonderful. And coming back down. Great. Let's take some abdominals. So hands at the back of the head, interlace the fingers. Let's bring the feet and knees together. Bring those elbows forwards. Again, repeating what we did when we were standing at the beginning of class. The elbows are forwards, the armpits are hugging, shoulder blades are sliding down, the rib cage is connecting. Keep your pelvis in a neutral position. Let's just come up, squeeze those knees together, come up, clear the shoulder blades and lower. Clear the shoulder blades. Be very conscious that you don't lift your head out of your hands. Keep the head heavy in the hands. Lifting up, keeping that lower back absolutely in the same position. Tummy drawn in and down. Internally I'm lifting a little bit, no pushing up in the tummy. About 5 of those, we've probably maybe done a few more. Now we're going to open up the feet and knees to hip width apart. We're coming up, and from now on we're going to stay on one side. So twist over towards the screen, but keep your elbows really close together. Try and keep that shoulder blade that you're twisting towards absolutely still off the floor. Come back to the centre and lower. 4 more of those. We're going to do 5 of each exercise. Lifting up, twisting, back to the centre and lower. Keep your hips absolutely still. So you come up in the centre, you know that you've cleared the shoulder blades. You twist, but not too far. Keep that shoulder blade still, just hovering. I can feel it's just about to touch the floor, but it's not actually touching the floor. So the last thing I would like to see if you were in class is this. I don't want to see any collapsing and rolling across that shoulder. I just want the subtle twist. We're working our obliques. Very difficult to do well. Okay, we're adding on. I'm going to take my camera side closest to the camera, the screen, arm out to the side. It's level with my shoulder and the palm is up. Now instead of coming straight up and then going to the corner, I'm going to go straight up to the corner. And I'm trying to still keep that shoulder blade cleared. I'm thinking of this elbow. If I was to extend that arm, it's like I'm reaching up. My room is quite square. It's like I'm reaching up to the corner of the room. But we're not actually going to extend that arm. We're just coming up. And then down again. So lifting up, almost pushing that opposite hip down into the floor a little bit. My hand is strongly supporting the back of my head, so my neck isn't hurting. I'm going to do 2 more, I think. Reaching and rolling at the same time, or not rolling, actually rolling is a bad word. Lifting, 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 extending. Okay, same thing with the upper body. We're going to add in a knee fold and a leg slide at the same time. So the camera side, screen side leg is lifting because we want to go in opposition. The other leg sliding along the floor. In some respects, this is a little bit easier to keep the pelvis still, but it is very much hard work. 3 more. Lifting, keeping that shoulder blade. I can wiggle it about. It's not actually touching the floor. Keeping my hips level. Here's the last one. I'm going to hold this one tiny little bit more. Can I square everything up? Can I make that position tiny bit better? Whew, yes. I could, but it hurt. Wonderful. I'm going to stay where I am actually. In class I was turning around to face the other way, but I can't see you anyway, so we're going to face away from the screen now as you do this next set. So we don't need to do the coming up in the centre, we do need to do coming up in the centre and then twisting, but not the coming up in the centre on their own. So hands to the back of the head again. Enjoy this extra support with both hands at the back of the head. Keep those elbows forwards and really in your periphery vision. Slide the shoulder blades down, hug the armpits, set your torso. Now we're coming up in the centre. To clear the shoulder blades, we're twisting away from the screen but not very much. Returning to the centre and lower. 4 more. Centre, twist, centre and lower. Keep those hips absolutely still. Keep your lower back in the same shape. Keep your lower tummy in the same shape. Draw those ribs down to connect to your hips at the front. Hug your armpits so that your ears, your shoulders don't end up sliding up towards your ears. Make sure you're not lifting your head out of your hands. Keep your head nice and heavy in the hands. Let's take the arm out to the side now. Back of the hand on the floor, hands slightly lower than your shoulders, and now we're lifting straight up to that corner and lowering. Going almost on a diagonal. Make sure that you don't roll across that shoulder that's with the arms out to the side. Lifting, extending. Imagine your elbow, your arm extends up towards that ceiling, where the ceiling and the wall meet. I think there's 1 more of this variety. Actively keeping that pelvis still. We're adding on, we're knee folding the leg on the side that you're reaching towards, so the opposite side to the elbow. We're leg sliding the other leg along the floor, and we're returning, again timing, thinking about everything returning at the same time. Get to the top of the position, hold it for 2 counts, return 3 more, I think. If you do 5 in each position, that would be brilliant. I think this is my last one. I'm going to hold it a tiny little bit longer, just checking everything. Checking that my pelvis hasn't twisted. See if I can get a tiny bit more height. Oh, no, I can't even speak. Woo! And then arms out to the side, feet, legs bent, feet wide, and just let your knees roll from side to side. This is not an exercise, it's just a little unravelling of those obliques, all those lovely crisscross muscles that we just worked. That was quite hard work. Brilliant. We are, how are we doing for time? My usual short class. Let's go to lie on your tummies. And just repeating that, the snow angels basically, the one that we did when we were standing. So if I just remind you, backs of the hands come to the small of your back, you extend, you turn, you reach forwards and above, and then you come to fingertips to temples. Much harder, much trickier on the floor. So with your legs, we're going to, just have a quick look before you lie down, we're going to start with our big toes together, and your heels will be quite apart. So you're sort of, the legs are rolled in but very relaxed. I want you to bring your heels together, but then rather than turning out, which is the one that we normally do, bring your heels together and feel like you're squeezing your legs together from the outside in towards that central line. So no turn out on this one. Let's just get those heels together and think about that midline squeeze. So lying down on your tummy, connect the ribs, get your legs all sorted so the hips aren't scrunched up. Big toes together, heels dropped out to the side, arms, let's start with the backs of the arms on the floor, tip of the nose on the floor, allow the shoulders to collapse forwards, Quasimodo style. And then we're going to squeeze those heels together and then squeeze your legs together from the outside in. I really want to turn out. I have to struggle not to turn my legs out here, but it's a good exercise to just bring those legs together in the centre. Lift the back of the head and neck, lift the shoulder tips. You don't need to lift too high. Lift the arms up, palms are still up, backs of the hands to the floor. Let's start by bringing the hands into the small of the back, if you can. This is quite tough on my dodgy shoulder, which you can't quite see, but I'm trying to keep my shoulders open, the elbows wide, and then lengthen fingertips down towards the feet. Turn the palms as you sweep round, so palms are down. Reach them forwards without lifting those shoulders up, and then bring the fingertips to the backs of your ears. Elbows are out to the side. This is hard work. My legs are quivering actually. Extend the arms forwards, sweep them round, keep them nice and straight. Turn the palms up before you bring the hands into the small of the back. Keep those legs squeezing together. Let's try 2 more. Extend the legs. No, extend the arms, fingertips to feet. Palms are down. Reach the arms forwards. Keep those elbows off the floor if you can. Extend them away to opposite directions. Extending forwards, sweeping round. Keep them nice and straight. Last one, reaching down. Can you squeeze those legs together a little bit more without any turnout? Just squeeze in the centre. As you reach your arms forwards, pull your shoulders in the opposite direction. Fingertips to the backs of your ears. Elbows high, but not squeezing your shoulder blades together. Woo, last one. Extend those arms forwards. Sweep round. Hand. Oh, have a little collapse. Big toes together. Heels off out to the side. Wonderful. Brilliant. Let's come up onto all 4. like doing a spine circle or anything else, any of our normal mobilising stuff, please feel free to do that. But I would also like you to finish off with my favourite, as you mostly know, type of walking, which is the bear walks. So from all fours, curling the toes under, lifting the hips up. So we've got this wonderful stretch of the calves. You could just stay here and walk your feet into each other, padding through the feet, rolling. Or you could take opposite of a hand first when you're walking forwards, then the opposite leg follows. Hand and leg, or arm and leg I should say. So at the moment I'm going all straight arms and straight legs. When you're walking backwards, you lead with the toes. Try and sort of stretch it out a little bit. It makes you feel like you really are a bear. And it just gives you these wonderful stretches. You could do it with bent legs. You could do it with slightly bent arms, or you could bend one arm and then have the other leg, or the same leg straight. You could keep your hands level. You could take a sexy bear where you're crossing over the legs, sort of wiggling at the side of the torso. It should all feel absolutely amazing. Finish the movement off by coming to your feet nice and parallel. Well, I walked my feet in, then you could walk your hands back to your feet. Feet are wide, knees are soft. Roll up through the spine to unravel. I'm a little bit out of the camera angle now, but let's just remind ourselves of those 5 things. Number 1, eyeline is lifted. Number 2, chest is lifted. Number 3, hips are strong, driving forwards. Number 4, articulating, rolling through the feet and the ankles in good alignment. Number 5, when you are truly walking really efficiently and really well, the arms swinging naturally in opposition. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you very soon.